The auction hall was massive, stretching far beyond what Lyra could see. Hundreds of aliens from countless planets filled the seats, their eyes sharp, curious, and sometimes cruel. The air vibrated with excitement, fear, and anticipation. Lyra stood on the raised platform, her small frame trembling beneath the chains that held her wrists. Her luminous blue skin shimmered faintly under the harsh lights, and her eyes darted nervously around the hall. She had been taken from her home, a peaceful planet where her people lived quietly in the forests of violet trees and glowing flowers. That world seemed like a dream now, replaced by this cold, terrifying place where her future was uncertain. Every alien in the room looked at her not as a being, but as a possession. Lyra clenched her fists, trying to hold on to some dignity, though fear gnawed at her from the inside. Next, the auctioneer's voice boomed across the hall, a mix of excitement and greed. Lyra's stomach tightened. She knew that whoever bought her would control her life, and her mind raced with horrible possibilities. Pain, slavery, torture. She had heard stories of those who were bought at this auction and had no reason to hope for mercy. Among the crowd, one figure stood out. He was a human, middle-aged, with silver streaks in his hair and deep lines on his face, evidence of years of experience and wisdom. His brown eyes were calm, almost gentle, and unlike the other bidders, he did not shout or gesture wildly. Lyra's heart sank at the thought of him. He looked like someone who could be cruel in subtle ways, calculating. When the auctioneer began to speak of her qualities, Lyra listened intently, trying to understand what her future might hold. Strong, quick, intelligent, the auctioneer said, and adaptable. This one could be special. Lyra's mind raced. Special? That means they want me for more than simple work. That means danger. The human man raised his hand slowly, catching the attention of the auctioneer. Yes, he said, his voice calm but firm. There was no excitement, no rush, only certainty. He placed a bid and the room murmured. Others looked at him in surprise. Most buyers sought attention and power, showing off their wealth, but this man simply stood, quiet and deliberate. Lyra's eyes narrowed. He thinks he can buy me? He thinks I will obey him? Fear and anger surged together, making her chest tighten. She did not understand humans well, but she knew enough to distrust them. All of them want something, and it is never good. The bidding continued, but the human never raised his voice or showed aggression. When the final gavel hit, the auctioneer declared him the winner. Lyra felt a cold dread settle in her chest. You bought me?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her effort to sound defiant. The man stepped forward and bowed slightly, a gesture that surprised her. "I did," he said simply. "You are safe with me." Lyra's first reaction was disbelief. "Safe? You bought me. To harm me, that's why you are here." The man shook his head. "No, I bought you to save you from others who would harm you. You have nothing to fear from me." For a moment, Lyra could not believe her ears. Every story she had heard about humans told her they were unpredictable and often cruel. Why would one human risk so much to save me? Her instincts told her to run, to resist. But the chains on her wrists reminded her of her current helplessness. She was escorted from the auction hall to a sleek, silver spaceship waiting outside. The craft was unlike any she had seen before, smooth and silent, humming with energy. Lyra's eyes widened at the sight. "Where are we going? What will happen to me now?" Jonas, the human, gestured toward a room at the back of the ship. "This will be your quarters. You will have food, warmth, and rest. No one will hurt you here." Lyra's mistrust burned. She took cautious steps, scanning every corner for hidden traps or threats. But the room was simple and safe, with soft light and clean bedding. For the first time since being captured, Lyra felt something like confusion. Why was he showing her care? "You are quiet," Jonas said, watching her carefully. "I know this is hard to understand. I know you might not trust me. That is natural, but I am not your enemy." Lyra swallowed, her fear making her voice small. "Then why did you buy me?" "To save you," he said. "I have done this before. Many others like you have been at auctions, and I have bought them to protect them. I cannot let you fall into cruel hands. You deserve a chance to live freely." Her mind struggled to process this. Free, that word felt strange, almost impossible. But she saw the calmness in his eyes, the lack of greed or desire to control her. Perhaps he was telling the truth. The journey through space was long, giving Lyra time to observe Jonas. He worked quietly, checking the ship's instruments, repairing minor systems and always ensuring she was safe. He did not rush her, did not force conversation, and did not act like a master claiming ownership. Instead, he showed respect and patience. At first, Lyra remained silent, afraid that any sign of trust might be a mistake. She watched him work, learning small details, the way he handled delicate equipment, how he calculated risks, and how he remained calm under pressure. Slowly, she realized that he was not like the others she had seen. Humans, aliens, even the auctioneers themselves. He was different. One night, as the ship traveled through a region of space known for pirate attacks, alarms blared. Lyra jumped, heart racing. She watched Jonas move swiftly, opening control panels and issuing commands with precision. The ship's defenses activated, energy shields humming to life. A small fleet of pirate vessels appeared on the sensors. They were fast, aggressive, and clearly expecting an easy target. Lyra's fear spiked, but she noticed something surprising. Jonas did not panic. His movements were confident, calm, and precise. "Stay here," he said gently, noticing her fear. "You are safe inside." For the first time, Lyra felt a strange emotion. She believed him. She hid behind a console, watching him maneuver the ship with skill and courage. The pirates fired, but the shields absorbed the attacks. Jonas returned fire carefully, disabling engines and weapons with precise strikes, never causing unnecessary damage. Lyra's admiration began to grow, mingling with her fear. She had expected cruelty, but here was a human fighting not for glory or wealth, but to protect her. She could see that every action he took was deliberate, thoughtful, and careful. After the attack ended and the pirates retreated, Jonas returned to her room. He found her pale but unharmed. "Are you okay?" he asked. Lyra nodded, her voice barely a whisper. I think so. You saved me." Jonas smiled faintly. "Yes, I saved you. And I will continue to. You don't need to fear me." For the first time, Lyra allowed herself a small sense of relief. She still did not fully understand humans, and her past experiences made her cautious. But something about Jonas, his patience, his calmness, and his actions, made her start to believe that humans could act with honor and kindness. The days passed, and the ship moved through star systems and nebulae, far from the auction halls and cruel buyers. Jonas allowed Lyra to explore the ship, teaching her small skills: how to read star maps, how to understand the controls, and how to manage minor repairs. She discovered that she was capable, and Jonas recognized it. He treated her as a partner, not a prisoner. Lyra began to speak more, asking questions about humans, the stars, and the worlds they passed. Jonas answered patiently, never belittling her curiosity. Slowly, the walls of fear she had built around herself started to crack. She began to see a future where she was not just surviving, but learning, growing, and maybe even trusting again. That night, as she looked out at the stars from the observation deck, she realized something she never thought possible. She did not have to fear humans. At least not this human. Jonas had shown her that courage and kindness could exist even in the darkest places of the galaxy. For the first time since being captured, Lyra felt a spark of hope. The ship glided silently through the endless darkness of space, leaving behind the auction halls and cruel buyers that had marked Lyra's worst memories. Still, her mind was restless. She had learned to distrust quickly, to expect the worst. Yet with Jonas, things felt different. She found herself studying him, curious about the calm way he moved, the thoughtful way he spoke, and the careful manner in which he protected her. Each day, Jonas would allow her to explore the ship's corridors, pointing out systems, controls, and living quarters. Lyra discovered that the human was not only strong and brave, but also wise in ways she could not fully understand. He showed her how to read star maps, explaining the complex dance of planets and stars, and even how to anticipate the movements of nearby ships. At first, she struggled with the concepts, her alien mind unaccustomed to human logic in some areas, but Jonas never showed frustration. He encouraged her to try again, repeating explanations patiently until she understood. "You are very clever," Jonas said one evening, watching her trace a complicated star route with her fingers. "It is not easy to do this on your first attempt, but you are learning quickly." Lyra's cheeks glimmered faintly with pride. No one had ever said something like that to her before. I only follow what you show me," she replied cautiously. "I am not clever yet." "You are clever," Jonas insisted, smiling. "Cleverness is not about knowing everything. It is about trying, observing, and understanding. You do all of that." She had never felt such a simple truth spoken before. Perhaps humans were not only unpredictable but also capable of kindness that had meaning beyond words. For the first time, she allowed herself to relax slightly, even to imagine a life where fear was not the constant companion she had always known. Their quiet days, however, were interrupted one morning by an urgent alarm. Lyra was in the observation deck when the red lights flashed across the ship's panels. Jonas moved instantly, checking the screens. A small fleet of pirate vessels had appeared on the sensors, moving quickly toward their position. "Pirates," he muttered, his voice calm but firm. "They must have followed us from the auction system. We need to prepare." Lyra's heart pounded. Memories of chained cells and cruel buyers came rushing back. She froze, unsure what she could do. Jonas noticed her hesitation. "Stay here," he said, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "You will be safe if you follow my instructions. Trust me." Lyra nodded, though fear still clung to her like a shadow. She had little choice but to follow him as he activated the ship's defense systems. The energy shields hummed to life and weapon systems calibrated quickly. Lyra watched, fascinated despite her fear. Jonas moved with precision, anticipating the pirates' attacks before they happened, guiding the ship through evasive maneuvers while keeping the shield stable. When the first blasts hit the ship, Lyra flinched. The wall shook and alarm screamed. Yet Jonas stayed calm, issuing commands and monitoring every system. "Focus on me, not the noise," he instructed. "The ship is built to handle this. Trust in it and trust in me." She nodded again, forcing herself to observe rather than panic. Her alien senses, sharper than most humans, noticed patterns in the pirates' movements. She saw where they were weakest, which weapons seemed slower to respond, and how their ships maneuvered. Impulsively, she spoke up. "Left flank. They are clustering on the left side," she shouted. Jonas's eyes flicked to her, a hint of surprise on his face, then he smiled slightly. "Good observation. Help me reroute power to the left shields. That should absorb most of their fire." Lyra's fingers moved quickly over the console, following his instructions. The ship shuddered less as the shields absorbed the attacks and the pirates found their weapons ineffective. Jonas and Lyra worked together, a silent team of instinct and knowledge. By the time the pirates realized their mistake, Jonas had disabled 2 of their engines, forcing them to retreat. When the alarms finally stopped, Lyra sank into a chair, her body trembling. I helped," she whispered, hardly believing it herself. Jonas knelt beside her. "Yes, you did. You were brave, observant, and quick to act. That helped save the ship. You are stronger than you know." For the first time, Lyra realized something important. Strength was not only in muscles or weapons. It was also in intelligence, courage, and quick thinking. She began to see herself differently, and in a small, hesitant way, she began to trust Jonas completely. The next days were quieter, but the bond between them grew. Jonas shared stories of Earth and humans, explaining how humans valued life and freedom, even across the galaxy. Lyra listened, fascinated. She learned that many humans risked their lives to save others, sometimes without any reward. The idea was alien to her species, who often expected survival to come through cunning or dominance. Yet Jonas embodied those stories. "You are very different from what I expected," Lyra said one night as they watched the stars streak past the observation deck window. "I thought humans were cruel like the buyers at the auction." Jonas chuckled softly. "Some are, yes, but some are not. And the ones who are not can make a difference. I try to be one of those humans." Lyra was silent for a moment, considering his words. I think I understand now. Maybe not all humans are like them. Maybe some care about others, like you." "I care about many," Jonas said gently. "But I care about you especially, Lyra. I promised you safety, and I will keep that promise." Her name, spoken by him with such care, made her feel seen, as if she mattered not just as a being to be bought or sold, but as an individual. She had never felt this before. The ship continued its journey through uncharted space, stopping at small, safe planets for supplies. Each time, Lyra observed and learned more about Jonas, humans, and the galaxy. She began to notice details, how he treated the environment with respect, how he carefully checked equipment to prevent accidents, and how he valued the lives of even the smallest creatures they encountered. One day, while resting in her quarters, Lyra found herself thinking about the auction. How different it could have been if Jonas had not intervened, if she had fallen into the hands of the other buyers. She shivered. The memory made her grateful but also determined. She could not remain passive forever. If she was to survive, she needed to learn, to understand, and to contribute. Jonas noticed the change in her gradually. "You are growing more confident," he said one morning, as she helped calibrate the ship's sensors. "I see it in your movements, in the way you observe things. You are learning fast." "I want to help," Lyra admitted. "I do not want to only follow instructions. I want to do more." "That is good," Jonas said. "You will. I will teach you everything I can, and then you will be able to act on your own. That is how trust works. You must be able to rely on yourself as well as others." Lyra's eyes shone. It was a new feeling, hope mixed with purpose. She had always felt powerless, a victim of cruel fate. Now she was learning that she could influence events, protect herself, and even protect others. Days later, the ship approached a nebula known for dangerous gravitational currents. Jonas explained the risks, the need for precise maneuvering, and the importance of careful observation. Lyra assisted by monitoring the energy outputs of the engines and warning him of minor fluctuations. Together, they navigated the nebula safely. "You are becoming very skilled," Jonas said once they emerged safely. "Soon you will be able to manage this ship on your own." Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a pride she had never known. For the first time, she did not feel like a slave. She felt like a partner, an individual capable of making choices and taking action. That night, she stood on the observation deck looking at the stars stretching infinitely in all directions. She thought of her home, of the auction, and of Jonas. For the first time in her life, she felt that she had a chance to shape her own destiny. She no longer feared humans blindly, and she no longer assumed that every gesture of kindness hid cruelty. Jonas had shown her a different way, a way where courage, patience, and compassion mattered, and deep inside, Lyra realized something even more profound. She had begun to trust not just Jonas but herself. The ship moved steadily through deep space, leaving the nebula behind. Lyra had settled into a routine, learning, observing, and slowly trusting Jonas more with each passing day. She had discovered that he was not only brave and skilled, but also endlessly patient. Every action he took showed thought, care, and respect, not just for her but for the life of every creature, no matter how small. Jonas had spoken of a special place, a hidden sanctuary for rescued aliens. Lyra listened intently as he described it. "Many of the beings you see being sold in auctions," he said one evening, "never have a chance to live freely. I try to change that. We have a safe place where they can learn, grow, and be themselves. That is where we are going." Lyra could hardly believe it. A safe place for others like her? A place where no one would harm her and where freedom was the rule, not the exception? She dared not hope too much, fearing disappointment. But the idea stirred something inside her, a spark of curiosity, and perhaps even excitement. As the ship approached the coordinates Jonas had given, a faint green glow appeared on the sensors. It was a small planet, barely noticeable among the stars, covered with forests of silver-leaved trees and clear flowing rivers. The ship descended through the atmosphere, and Lyra could see creatures moving freely, unchained, unafraid. When the ship landed, Jonas led Lyra through a gate hidden among the trees. She stopped, staring in awe at the settlement before her. Huts and small buildings were built seamlessly into the landscape, connected by wooden walkways and bridges. Aliens of every shape and color moved about freely, tending gardens, practicing skills, and speaking with one another. The air was filled with a quiet energy of life, learning, and freedom. Lyra turned to Jonas, her voice trembling with wonder. This is real?" "It is," Jonas replied softly. "All of these beings were once in danger. Now they are safe. And soon you will be part of this too, if you wish." She could hardly believe it. The sight of so many beings living freely without fear made her chest ache with relief and hope. She realized that this was more than just a sanctuary. It was a statement that life could be protected, even in a galaxy filled with greed and cruelty. Jonas introduced her to some of the residents. Many were wary at first, as Lyra had been when she arrived, but Jonas's calm explanations and her honest curiosity helped break the ice. She learned names, species, and a little about their lives. Some had been rescued just like her, while others had been born on the sanctuary and had never known life elsewhere. Lyra found herself fascinated by the differences and similarities between these beings. Some were strong and tall, some small and nimble, but all shared the same quiet strength of spirit. Jonas explained that everyone had skills to contribute, and he encouraged Lyra to find hers. You have already shown courage, he said, watching her carefully, and intelligence. Those are valuable in any place. Here you can learn, grow, and help protect others. That is what I hope for you. At first, Lyra hesitated. She was still adjusting to trust and to the idea of being more than a rescued slave. But she soon realized that she wanted to contribute, to belong, and to prove herself. She began helping with small tasks, monitoring energy systems, assisting in repairs, and learning the layout of the settlement. Jonas guided her, allowing her to take initiative but always nearby to ensure she was safe. The peace of the sanctuary, however, was not absolute. Jonas had warned her that remnants of the slave network were still active, searching for those they had lost. It was only a matter of time before they discovered this place. Lyra understood the danger, but she also felt a new determination. She would not hide. She would not be a victim again. One day, while exploring the outer perimeter, Lyra noticed subtle signs of intrusion, broken branches, footprints in the soil, and sensors triggered that had not been before. Her heart pounded as she realized what it meant. "Jonas, someone is here," she whispered urgently. He appeared beside her, his face calm but serious. "Show me," he said. Together they traced the signs and Jonas nodded. "It is as I feared. The slave network is trying to find us. We need to prepare." Over the next days, Jonas and Lyra worked together to fortify the sanctuary. They set up defensive measures, trained other residents in basic protective techniques, and made sure that everyone understood how to respond in case of an attack. Lyra's role grew quickly, her observations and insights proving invaluable. She knew the behaviors of hunters and trackers, having seen them at the auction, and she applied that knowledge to strengthen the colony's defenses. "You are learning fast," Jonas said one evening, watching her adjust energy shields around the perimeter. "You are thinking like a human and an alien at the same time. That combination is rare and powerful." Lyra felt a sense of pride. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Acknowledging both her intelligence and her value, she realized that she was no longer the frightened girl from the auction. She was becoming someone who could protect herself and others, someone capable of making decisions and acting with purpose. Tension in the sanctuary rose as the signs of the approaching slave network became clearer. One night, alarms rang again, signaling a small fleet of ships on the horizon. Jonas gathered the residents, calmly assigning roles and explaining strategies. Lyra stood beside him, helping to coordinate efforts and relay observations. The attack began at dawn. Small ships darted through the sky, aiming to capture or destroy the settlement. Jonas and the defenders met them with a combination of technology and strategy, using the terrain to their advantage. Energy shields absorbed initial attacks while countermeasures disabled several enemy ships. Lyra moved quickly, directing residents to safe positions and monitoring the attackers' movements. She noticed patterns, predicting where the enemies would strike next. Her alien intuition, combined with Jonas's strategy, allowed the sanctuary to hold firm. One particularly large ship attempted to breach the central area, aiming for the main living quarters. Lyra immediately warned Jonas. "They are targeting the center. We need to redirect the shields." Jonas nodded and acted, adjusting the energy flow while Lyra assisted. The shields held, the attackers were repelled, and the residents cheered, their spirits lifted by the successful defense. Lyra felt a surge of pride. She had helped save countless lives. After the attack, the sanctuary was safe once more, though the threat of future attacks remained. Jonas approached Lyra, his expression proud but serious. "You did well today. You were brave, quick, and precise. Without you, the outcome could have been very different." Lyra felt her chest swell with pride. For the first time in her life, she realized that she had a purpose beyond survival. She could help others, protect them, and make a difference. The fear that had defined her existence was slowly being replaced by courage and hope. As night fell over the sanctuary, Lyra stood with Jonas on a small hill overlooking the settlement. The glowing trees, the flowing rivers, and the peaceful homes reminded her that freedom was possible, even in a galaxy filled with cruelty. I never imagined a place like this existed," Lyra admitted softly. "I thought life was always about fear, about surviving cruel people. But here's something different. Here I feel hope." Jonas smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Hope is always possible, Lyra. You just have to find it. And now you are part of it. You are part of this place, part of this mission, and part of the lives you protect. Lyra looked around, taking in the faces of the other rescued aliens. They were free, alive, and unafraid. She realized that she had found not only safety, but also a sense of belonging. Her past as a captured slave was still a part of her, but it no longer defined her. She was growing stronger, wiser, and more capable each day. And as she stood there side by side with Jonas, she understood something profound. Humans, at least some of them, could act with courage, kindness, and honor. They could save lives, inspire hope, and create change. Jonas had shown her that, and in doing so, he had given her more than safety. He had given her a vision of a future she could believe in. For the first time since the auction, Lyra felt something like peace. But she also knew that the galaxy was vast and dangers would come again. She would be ready. Together with Jonas, she would face whatever challenges arose, using her intelligence, her courage, and the lessons she had learned. And for the first time, she no longer felt like a powerless girl at an auction. She felt like a defender, a student, a partner, and most importantly, someone who could shape her own destiny. The sanctuary lay quiet under the glow of twin moons, the alien forest shimmering like silver in the night. For days, Lyra had trained and prepared with Jonas and the other residents, setting defenses and planning strategies. The threat of the slave network still hung in the air, a dark shadow that reminded them that freedom was never guaranteed. But Lyra felt stronger, braver, and more certain of herself than she ever had before. Jonas gathered the residents in the central clearing, his calm presence commanding attention. "They will come," he said quietly but firmly. "We do not know when, but we must be ready. Remember your roles, trust your training, and trust each other. We protect this place and we protect one another." Lyra stood beside him, her nerves tight but her resolve firm. She had learned to read patterns, to anticipate moves, and to act quickly. Today, she was no longer a frightened girl. She was part of a team that would defend hundreds of lives. As dawn approached, alarms rang across the settlement. Lyra's heart raced as she activated the perimeter sensors. On the horizon, she could see ships approaching. Sleek black vessels with red markings, unmistakably part of the slave network. They moved with confidence, expecting an easy victory. Jonas moved quickly, coordinating the defense. "Shields up! All residents to safe positions." Lyra monitored the left flank. Lyra's hands moved over the controls, her eyes scanning the sensors for signs of the enemy. She noticed patterns in their approach, small gaps in formation, moments when weapons cooled, and weaknesses in their navigation. She relayed each detail to Jonas, who adjusted the defenses accordingly. The first wave of attackers fired, energy blasts streaking through the air. The sanctuary's shields held, absorbing the impact while Jonas directed countermeasures with precision. Lyra felt a thrill of excitement and fear, realizing how important her role had become. Every observation, every quick decision could save lives. One ship broke formation, attempting to target the central living quarters. Lyra noticed it instantly. "Jonas, they are heading for the center," she shouted. Jonas nodded. "Divert shields to the center. Focus the energy cannons on the incoming ship." Together they acted swiftly. Lyra rerouted power while Jonas aimed and fired the cannons. The attacking ship exploded in a burst of fire, preventing damage to the sanctuary. Lyra's chest swelled with pride. She had helped protect dozens of lives in a moment of crisis. The battle continued, fierce and chaotic. Smaller ships tried to breach the perimeter, while Jonas coordinated the residents in defensive maneuvers. Lyra moved quickly, giving instructions, predicting movements, and assisting in repairs. She noticed a group of attackers attempting to flank from the right. "Right flank! They are moving through the trees." Jonas adjusted the energy shields and sent a small team to intercept them. Lyra guided the defenders with calm precision, her voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through her veins. She realized that fear no longer controlled her. She could act, think, and respond with clarity. Hours passed in a blur of action, strategy, and quick thinking. Slowly, the attackers began to falter. Their formations broke, their ships disabled one by one. Lyra and Jonas worked as a team, combining human strategy with her alien instincts. Every decision they made was deliberate, every move calculated. The sanctuary's defenders gained confidence, inspired by the bravery and calm of their leaders. Finally, the largest ship remained, the flagship of the slave network. It hovered above the central area, its energy weapons charging. Lyra's heart pounded as she realized the danger it posed. "Jonas, that ship, she whispered. I see it, he said. We need to focus all firepower. Lyra, guide the energy cannons. Predict their movement and tell me when to fire. Lyra's eyes scanned the sensors, calculating speed, trajectory, and distance. Left turn. Now no, wait. Smaller adjustment? Fire now. Jonas acted immediately, the cannons responding to her commands. The flagship shuddered under the impact, its energy shields failing. The residents cheered as the ship tumbled through the sky and crashed into the forest beyond the settlement. Silence followed the chaos, broken only by the cheers and laughter of the residents who had survived. Lyra sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. She had helped protect this sanctuary, saved lives, and faced danger without fleeing. Jonas approached her, his face calm but proud. You were amazing, he said. Brave, quick, and precise. Without your guidance, the outcome could have been very different. You have grown so much, Lyra. She looked up at him, her eyes shining. I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I could be brave. Bravery isn't about never feeling fear, Jonas said gently. It's about acting despite fear. You did that. Today you saved many lives. That is bravery. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had survived the auction, escaped captivity, and now defended a sanctuary for others like her. She realized that she was no longer a passive victim. She was active, capable, and strong. The residents gathered around, expressing their gratitude. Lyra received hugs, nods of respect, and smiles from beings she had just met. She felt a warmth in her chest, a connection to others that she had never experienced before. As night fell over the sanctuary, Lyra and Jonas walked to the observation deck together. The forest glowed softly under the twin moons, peaceful and serene after the day's chaos. You see this? Jonas asked, gesturing to the settlement below. All of this exists because we refuse to accept cruelty as the rule. We protect life, we protect freedom, and we protect one another. That is what makes a difference. Lyra nodded, feeling a mix of pride and gratitude. I see it now. I understand. Humans, at least you, Jonas, can do incredible things. You risk everything to protect others. I never thought it was possible. Jonas smiled. It is possible, Lyra, and you are part of it. Today you proved that. You helped save lives and you helped protect this sanctuary. You are brave, smart, and capable. Never forget that. Lyra's heart swelled with emotion. For the first time, she did not feel fear as her defining trait. She felt strength, courage, and hope. The chains of the past had been broken, replaced by a sense of purpose and belonging. I want to stay, she said softly. I want to help protect others, learn, and grow. I don't want to be a victim anymore. Jonas placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression warm. Then stay, Lyra, you are welcome here. You are part of this community now and part of my life. Together we can face anything. Lyra looked out at the stars, thinking of all the places she had been, all the dangers she had faced, and the kindness she had received. For so long she had feared humans, feared life, and feared the future. But now she understood that courage, compassion, and trust could exist, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. She turned to Jonas, her eyes shining with determination. Thank you, she said simply. You saved me, and you showed me a different way to live. Jonas nodded. You saved yourself too. You chose to trust, to act, and to grow. I only guided you. The real bravery came from you. As they stood together looking at the sanctuary and the stars beyond, Lyra felt a sense of peace and purpose she had never known. She had faced fear, survived cruelty, and emerged stronger. She had learned that humans could be allies, protectors, and sources of hope. And most importantly, she had discovered that she could shape her own destiny. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, filled with challenges and unknown dangers. But for the first time, Lyra did not feel helpless. She had courage, skill, and the support of Jonas in the sanctuary. She was ready to face whatever came next. And as the twin moons glimmered overhead, Lyra realized something profound. She was no longer a slave, no longer defined by fear or captivity. She was free, she was brave, and she was alive. Together, she and Jonas watched the stars, knowing that whatever dangers the universe might bring, they would face them side by side. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had taught her a truth she would carry forever. Hope, courage, and trust could conquer even the darkest of circumstances. Lyra smiled faintly, feeling the weight of the past lift from her shoulders. For the first time in her life, she looked forward to the future, not with fear but with anticipation, courage, and the knowledge that she was no longer alone.